Okay, guys, I want to share with you the artwork for the new CD. But before we do, I realized I forgot to tell you a little bit more about the title of the sonata I'm writing. So stick around till the end of this video, and I will show you the artwork for the new CD that's coming out very, 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 very soon. If you've already pre-ordered it, honestly, the minute I get this CD in the mail, it's going to be delivered to me, then it's going to be shipped off to you. But before we get to that, I did want to talk a little bit about the title for this sonata that I'm writing. It comes from a poem that I stumbled upon in a really, really wonderful book. You've probably heard of it, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This has just been one of the most enjoyable books I've read in the last, few weeks. Really, 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 really love this one. Don't know why I haven't read it sooner. Excellent. But came across this wonderful little poem, and you should be able to see it here. Yeah. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll leave maybe a link in the description so you can go and read the whole thing. But it's a poem called Father Forgets. And I'm not so much getting at, well, maybe deep down I am kind of getting at this sort of father-son relationship thing that's discussed in this poem. Maybe that is something deep down. When I write a piece, I usually find that afterwards I look back and I look at the title, and I find that the title actually had a lot of other connections and kind of inner meanings that I didn't really necessarily intend to be there. But then in retrospect, I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of, okay, now it makes sense, why that happened. So I'm just going to give you the short of, kind of what happens at the beginning of this poem. Basically, a father, he's looking at his son. I think, he's probably 7 or 8 years old, something along those lines. And he's in his bed, in bed sleeping, and the father's looking at him, and he's feeling very guilty because, as it turns out, the entire day, the father's been nitpicking on his son. In the morning, it says, at breakfast, I found fault with you. You spilled things. You gulped down your food. You put your elbows on the table. You spread butter too thick on your bread. And yeah, and and I made, and as you started off to play and I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy." And I frowned and said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." All right. And then he's going on talking about other things that are happening during the day, a point where he embarrasses his son in front of his friends and stuff like that. And then this is the part where the title for the sonata came from, because I really loved just the way that this was put. So do you remember later when I was reading in the library how you came in timidly with a sort of hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one tempestuous plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me. And your small arms tightened with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. I'll let you guys read the rest of the poem because there's some profound things that are gleaned at the end. But you can see that this is where I get the title, "With an affection even neglect could not wither." And I do think that this sonata, I've been writing it by using a lot of romantic period idioms, and there is some, there's a lot of drama in it, and there is a sort of romantic element to it, an element of love to it. And I just absolutely loved this phrase, "with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart, and which even neglect could not wither." I don't know if I really, really, really would like to include this part, "with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart." But it just makes for such a long title. I'm wondering, maybe I might even make this like 2 parts, 2 movements. Maybe the first movement will just say, "with an affection that God had set blooming in your heart." Now, okay, the wheels are turning. I didn't even think about this. "With an affection that God had set blooming in your heart." And then the second movement would be, "and which even neglect could not wither." And I think that first movement, I'm getting all sorts of ideas. I think that first movement, the shape of it could really be like something starting very, very tiny and just kind of, it blossoms out and there's nothing that can stop it. and then we get the second movement, which is probably the sonata I've already written. That might be what happens. I like that. All sorts of things happening. So I promised you guys that we would look at the artwork for the new CD after we talked about the title. So here it is. Let's go to our next tab here. And I'm using a company called Atomic Disc. I stumbled upon them on the internet and was like, this is precisely what I need to get these CDs created and shipped off. So yeah, we're basically at the final stages. They are on their way. They're being printed as we speak, and they will be shipped, and soon they will be shipped to you. So this is what we have. I had to hire someone else on Fiverr, graphic designer, to take this artwork, and these are the different panels. So this is going to be right here. That's going to be the front cover. You can see in the little green here, it says front cover. And, you know, a lot of people ask me about, you know, why the Chinese characters? I love, number one, how they look. I did fact check these. I sent them to my friends in China and said, hey, you know, these aren't dirty words or anything, right? You know, kind of like, you know, when someone gets a tattoo of a Chinese symbol and then, you know, everybody's making fun of them because it doesn't mean what he thought it, you know, meant or something like that. But they all assure me that these symbols kind of line up. You know, these two symbols kind of say, you know, souls and stretched, or sorry, souls across the skies. And that's what, you know, the title of the CD, Our Souls Stretched Tight Across the Skies. And maybe I'll do a separate video where I kind of talk about the title there and what I'm getting at there. And then we got the you know, the three pieces that are featured on this CD. A Bridge Away, Exits Within, And She Was With Such Grace. The third movement from the War Suite, and then Scar Letter Red, Chaconne Across three movements. And then on the inside, when you open it up, you'll be greeted with my mug here. And there's going to be a little offer right here, so watch out for the special directions there, because you'll get some more stuff by following those. And then here I've got detailed descriptions of each piece. So that's where we are on the artwork, and this is what the actual CD will look like when you pull it out. So all sorts of exciting stuff there. I don't want to dwell on it too long because part of, you know, I don't want to ruin, I've kind of ruined a lot of the surprise, but ideally, you know, when you receive it, this should be a good, enjoyable experience for everybody. So now that we've seen the artwork, I do want to tell you all about this Fifth Symphony I heard by Shostakovich. It's an incredible story, and to do that, I'm going to use a little bit of movie magic and hit cut. Hey guys, Edwin Culver here at the Straz Center of the Performing Arts up in Tampa right now. I'm about to go hear Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony.